Inshallah. Bismillah. Start. Let's go. We will respond to Asif Basit's shenanigans, his lies and manipulations of history. Bismillah.
Ahmadi Muslims are British agents, and the Ahmadiyya community was a colonial project, fifth column of the British Empire, to go make Muslims go against each other. And the reason this baffles me is because if we go back to the time of Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad alayhi salam, and when he made his claim to be the promised Messiah and Imam Mahdi, the ulama was saying something else to the British government. They were writing.
Ulama was saying all sorts of things. I don't know which one you're talking about.
Yeah, no, tell me. Tell me.
The ulama.
Adnan bhai, you can ask me to stop anytime. Inshallah, I will stop then.
Inshallah, yeah, we will. I will do that. But for now, let them flow. Let them flow. Inshallah.
Ulama was saying a lot of things. Like I said, the difference between the Ahmadiyya Jamaat and the rest of the Muslims in this contemporary world that we're living in at the moment is that the rest have chosen to divorce their past. The Ahmadiyya Muslim Jamaat hasn't. We have maintained the same stance that the founder of the Ahmadiyya community had. The rest are trying to be, it's a revisionist approach, if you like. I mean, it's a very soft term that I'm using as a revisionist. Otherwise, K.K. Aziz would call it the murder of history. And that actually is what describes what's going on at the moment. Because was he a British? I mean, I don't understand, first of all, before going into history and all of that, I've got all of this here today, right?
Yeah, good.
And we'll go into detail.
Yeah.
But, I mean, on the one side, you say, oh, Mirza Ghulam Qadyani didn't even know how to do this. He didn't even know how to read. He didn't even know how to write. Somebody else wrote his books. He didn't even know how to do his buttons properly, etc. And then you say he was a British agent. The British Empire. Would they hire somebody like the one that our opponents describe?
Okay. First of all these things he mentioned about Mirza Ghulam Qadyani are true. He didn't know how to do his buttons. He looked scruffy. He looked dirty every time. Look at his pictures. He doesn't even look like a neat person, right? This is true. I'm not saying this. You're the ones. Actually, you have to doctor his pictures for you to make him look more appealing. And this is a known fact. Look at your official pictures on your official websites of Mirza Ghulam Qadyani, where you have actually doctored pictures, right? And you have even changed the complexion of your current Khalifa. Look at his old pictures. He's dark complexion. For some reason, he has become light, full of noor and light. Yeah, all of a sudden, like Michael Jackson painted his face white from being pitch black. So look, you are the people who are playing these games. We're not just making these things up. And we never claimed, to my knowledge, that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadyani was actually himself appointed by the British. Have we claimed this, Imtiaz bhai, ever? No, because we are not claiming that he was born of a British plot, although many people do. No doubt, many people do. We are claiming that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadyani had something going on in his mind, and then he became a well-wisher of the British, a beggar to the British for support, for convenience, for favors, for example. We have evidence for all of that. That's what we're claiming. We're not claiming anything more than the evidence tells us. The evidence tells us that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadyani appealed to the British for support, for convenience, and for all sorts of things. Okay? And this he was doing by invoking the great services his father and his brother had done for the British colonial rule in India. This is all we're claiming. And he said, serving the British Empire is in our blood. We will shed our blood. We will shed our blood to serve the British colonial rule. This is what we're saying. Is this all untrue? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Which alim, which scholar of India actually said that? This is the question. First of all, I want to know which scholar said that I want to shed my blood for the British colonial rule. Which scholar actually invoked the great, treacherous, when I say great, I mean in inverted commas, treacherous services provided for the British colonial rule against the Indian brethren, freedom fighters, people who are fighting for freedom to get rid of the British from India. Because the British came in, they removed the Mughals from power. Mughals are Muslims who were ruling justly. Mughal rule for about 200 years in India was tolerant, was free, and people practiced their religions freely. Why did we need the British to come in and cause the problems, right? So our claim is that Mirza Ghulam Qadyani, he wrote these things and we present the evidence for that, okay? I never claimed, to my knowledge, to my memory, that Mirza Qadyani was born of a British plot. The British made him what he was. No, I believe he was a kafir himself. He disbelieved in Islam himself. No one instigated that disbelief. He himself was a kafir. He himself was a disbeliever who claimed things that go against the Quran directly. Okay, let's go. Imtiaz, you want to add something? Please feel free.
Adnan bhai, if you want me to show any of the references, what you said, I can inshallah share the screen if you like at any point.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. Let's go ahead, because this stream is going to be part of history, so people can watch what we're talking about. Okay, we're not just making this up. We have every single piece of evidence. So people like this Basit Asif, and look, this is how we respond. And we still invite Basit Asif, or Asif Basit, his name is Asif Basit, this Murabi, to come and join the stream. If you're watching right now, join us right now. You're most welcome to join and defend your views, right? Okay, look, these are some of the evidences. We have done streams on this, by the way, okay, in the past. We have done streams, about 3 or 4 streams on this, I think, Imtiaz bhai, with Queen Victoria's picture. And so I think we will just quickly show some evidence and leave the rest of the evidence for you to go and check on those streams. Those streams can be found on my YouTube channel and Imtiaz bhai's the Dialogue with Imtiaz YouTube channel. You can go and watch those streams. We did about 3 or 4 streams on this very topic. Okay, so what does it say?
By, for example, obviously people can take screenshot of these references, but we can just read some of them. So this is basically public announcements or Majmua Ishtiharat, volume number 2, latest edition, page number 396 to 407. It's a big announcement published. Now, for example, by one of the part is, Mere Walid Mirza Ghulam Murtaza Rais Qadian कैसे सरकारे अंग्रेजी के सच्चे वफादार और नेक नाम रईस थे. Now, Adnan bhai, the question is, why is he appealing, and why he just want to tell the British Raj that my father was loyal to you? Why?
Because he wants favors, Imtiaz bhai. We have evidence for that. He actually invoked these services for the British colonial rule in India, committed by his father and his brother, so that he can get favors from the British rule. Okay, so he was actually using these services to gain sympathy from the colonial officers ruling British India at the time. And we want to clarify from the get-go, the British colonial rule in India was one of the worst catastrophes in human history. Let us clarify. What is the problem? Where is the actual problem? Why are we raising this point? Why did Basit Asif, or Asif Basit, why did he do this podcast? Because it has been disturbing the Jamaat. It has been disturbing common Ahmadis. They are raising questions. They're asking questions. How can a prophet of God work with someone like that, or an entity like that? How can a prophet of God praise a principality like that? How can a prophet of God invoke their compassion, their favors for himself and his family and his followers? How can a prophet of God do that, having known the track record of the British colonial rule in India? Okay, it had been one of the worst catastrophes in human history, and books have been written on this very topic. Any book you pick up a modern book published in the last 10 to 20 years on the British colonial rule in India in particular. I'm not talking about Kenya, I'm not talking about African colonial settlements, I'm not talking about what happened in Australia, I'm not talking about what happened in Canada, I'm not talking about what happened in the US until the War of Independence, right? I'm not talking about all that. I'm talking about India in particular, where Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadyani was born. So it is impossible for him to not know all these things that have come to light recently in books.
And Adnan bhai, we just want to highlight few important things if you allow me, bhai. Is it okay, bhai?
Please go ahead.
Okay, Adnan bhai, look at this one. It says, महज इस एतकाद की तहरीक से जो खुदा ताला की तरफ से मेरे दिल में है. Now basically Adnan bhai, Mirza Ghulam Qadyani, who was claiming to be a prophet, when he is saying that he is doing all of that because Allah is guiding his heart to do all of, which mean now if somebody was actually going against the British Raj, or somebody was resisting the British Raj, Mirza Ghulam Qadyani is telling them that you are disobeying Allah and His Messenger. And by the way, inshallah, I'll show you in a minute. It says in black and white. Now it says that खुदा ताला की तरफ से मेरे दिल में बड़े जोर से बार बार इस बात को मुसलमानों में फैलाया है कि उनको गवर्नमेंट बरतानिया की जो दर हकीकत उनकी मोहसिन है सच्ची इताअत इख्तियार करनी चाहिए और वफादारी के साथ उसकी शुक्रगुजारी करनी चाहिए, वरना खुदा ताला के गुनाहगार होंगे. जी over to you, bhai.
So the translation to summarize of this particular quote and paragraph is that Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadyani is saying that Allah has put this in his heart, that Muslims must obey and be well-wishers of the British government in India, because the British government, the colonial British government of India, is a well-wisher of the Muslims. And if they don't do that, if they don't become well-wishers of this government, then they are disobeying Allah and His Messenger, and they are sinners. So this is now religion. This is not an opinion. This is not even an option now. You must obey the British colonial government as your religious duty, as a point of your religion, as a tenet of your religion. This is where the problem is. Mirza made it into religion that you must obey the colonial, the oppressive, the tyrannical, the racist, the genocidal, the unjust British colonial rule on India, or of India, the British Raj, known as the British Raj. Okay? And I will keep repeating these words. Yes.
And bhai, I just want, because you said this before, we just want to show the reference as well. Mirza Ghulam Qadyani is saying, हमारे बुजुर्ग हमेशा इस राह में अपनी जान देने के लिए तैयार रहे. And then he says, फिर नाउजुबिल्लाह, क्यों कर मुमकिन है कि हम अपने दिलों में मुफसिदाना इरादे रखें. जी भाई, and maybe I read this one, then you can explain for the people, भाई. यही वजह है कि मेरा बाप, मेरा भाई और खुद मैं रूह के जोश से इस बात में मसरूफ रहे कि इस गवर्नमेंट के फवाइद और एहसानात को आम लोगों पे जाहिर करें और इसकी इताअत की फर्जियत को दिलों में जमा दें. यही वजह है कि मैं 18 बरस से ऐसी किताबों की तालीफ में मशगूल हूँ जो मुसलमानों के दिलों को गवर्नमेंट अंग्लेशिया की मोहब्बत और इताअत की तरफ माइल कर रहे हैं. जी भाई.
So he said in the first quote, to summarize, that my elders, my predecessors, my ancestors have been serving the British colonial rule from their hearts, and why would I, God forbid, hold any ill feelings towards this government? Why would I? Okay, I wouldn't. And then in the second quote,
it says to sacrifice their life.
Oh yes, absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out. हमारे बुजुर्ग हमेशा इस राह में अपनी जान देने के लिए तैयार रहे हैं. They have been willing, or they had been willing to give their lives in this cause. What cause? to be loyal and to be subservient to the British colonial rule of India. This is a traitor. This is a traitor, the son of a traitor, the son of a traitor. This is a traitor who is working with a foreign occupying power, oppressing the native people beyond repair. You cannot imagine the damage that was caused by the British colonial rule in India. This is why anyone who studies the Qadyani Jamaat's history carefully, which Asif Basit alluded to, you will come to realize that treachery to the people of India was part of Mirza's religion. And common Ahmadis don't know this. They don't have a clue about this. That's why we want to highlight where the problem is. The problem is that you are praising and you are dying to serve an entity that was potentially, possibly more evil than the Pharaoh and Nimrod and all the evil examples Allah alludes to in the Quran put together, because they killed more people. They killed, the British colonial rule killed more people than the pharaohs of Egypt and then the king of Chaldee or the king of Babylon had killed. Okay, all these oppressive entities that are mentioned in the Quran. Yes.
Bhai, inshallah, maybe we'll inshallah just read these three more and then we can inshallah move on. Mirza
Yes,
Ghulam
inshallah.
Qadyani is saying that ये तो हमारा अकीदा है, मगर अफसोस के मुझे मालूम होता है कि इस लंबे सिलसिला 18 बरस की तालीफात को, जिनमें बहुत सी पुरजोर तालीफात इताअत गवर्नमेंट के बारे में हैं, कभी हमारी गवर्नमेंट मोहसिना ने तवज्जो से नहीं देखा. एंड देन ही सेज दैट तमाम फिरकों में से गवर्नमेंट का अव्वल दर्जे का वफादार और जानिसार यही फिरका है. सुभान अल्लाह.
Okay, now no, stop there.
जी
Stop there.
जी भाई जी.
He's saying, for 18 years, I've been reading books on how to be loyal to the British colonial rule of India.
By publishing
and
books.
publishing. And I've been talifat. He's saying talifat, the things that he has himself published in this vein. So he wants to basically tell the Muslims of India to obey wholeheartedly the British, the racist, the genocidal, the unjust, the cruel rule of the British over India, the colonial rule of British India. Obey them. Okay. And then in the next quote, he states that out of all the groups of people in British India, this new group, this new cult or this new sect is the most loyal to the British colonial government of India. Now, it's in black and white.
And you know, he used two things, Wafadar or Janisar. He's dying to give his life for them.
Yes. Loyal, Wafadar means loyal, and Janisar, willing to give your life for them. Willing to die for the British colonial rule of India. Okay. Again, genocidal, cruel, racist, unjust British colonial rule of India, even apartheid rule, because the whites were completely separated from the rest of the Indian population, whether you're Muslim, Hindu, or Christian. The whites were treated very differently, hence racist. So anyone who reads about the British colonial rule over India, okay, and if you know about apartheid South Africa, there was not much difference. Right? So let's continue. The next quote is, और मैं यकीन रखता हूं कि जैसे जैसे मेरे मुरीद बढ़ेंगे वैसे वैसे मसला जिहाद के मोतक़िद कम होते जाएंगे, क्योंकि मुझे मसीह और महदी मान लेना ही मसला जिहाद का इनकार करना है. There you go. He's saying, as my followers will grow, this is how the concept of jihad will die eventually. Those who will accept me as Masih, the Messiah, and the Mahdi, naturally, the concept of jihad will be killed. They will refuse to accept this concept, which is an Islamic concept found in the Quran and in the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Mirza is saying that if you accept me as the Messiah and the Mahdi, you will not even think of resisting the cruel, the racist, the genocidal, the unjust British colonial rule of India. You will not even think about it. These are the things Asif Basit and Murabbis like that will never address. They will never come to these streams. When we put these things out, they will die spiritually, metaphorically. Okay, istaaran.
Sorry, they are dead spiritually already. It's
Already, yes.
Yeah, just
Yes.
metaphorically.
Metaphorically, yes. And we don't want them to die, by the way. We are well-wishers. We are true well-wishers of the Ahmadiyya Jamaat and the common Ahmadis. We want you to know this stuff so that you can free yourself from the clutches of this evil cult run by these evil Murabbis. Okay, so let's go back to his talk. These are, by the way, these are the claims we are making. Yeah. We're not making anything else. These claims are black and white from the writings of Mirza. This is all we are saying. We're not saying anything else. Come and respond to this bakwas. Come and respond to this evil stuff. This kufr. This is kufr. Okay. Yes, Imtiaz bhai.
Bhai, I just want to point out two things. Number one, he was telling people that because he is Messiah and according to Ahadith, Yadaul Harb, he will lift the wars. But on the other hand, he's saying that I am willing to die for the British Raj. So it means that he's telling the Muslims that you cannot resist. No more wars.
Yes. Just don't fight. Don't fight the British. Don't fight. Basically, what Mirza is saying, don't resist and fight the British colonial rule of India. Don't resist them. Okay? Jihad against the racist, the bigoted, the unjust, the genocidal, okay, the apartheid British colonial rule over India is haram. That's what he said, jihad again. But to fight for them, to die for them is part of religion. It is a religious duty for the new firqa, for the new cult, for the new group of the Ahmadiyya. It is obligatory because what is he saying? कि तमाम फिरकों में से गवर्नमेंट का अव्वल दर्जे का वफादार और जानिसार यही नया फिरका है. If you know Urdu, you know what that means. But loosely translated, that from out of all the sects in India, okay, this new sect, this new cult, this new group is the most loyal and life-giving, willing to sacrifice their lives for the government, the British colonial government. Okay, so this is all we're saying, Asif Basit. We're not saying anything else.
Subhanallah. But look at this one. गर्ज ये एक ऐसी जमात है जो सरकार अंग्रेजी की नमक परवरदा और नेक नामी हासिल करदा और मोरद मराहम गौरमेंट. Yeah, more. Now, by the point is, सरकार अंग्रेजी की नमक परवरदगा, नमक परवरदा, basically saying we are namak halal.
Yes. So basically what he's saying is that this Jamaat, the Ahmadiyya, the Qadyani Jamaat, is basically a Jamaat that has been fed by the British government. Okay, we have had your salt. In the Urdu language or in the Indian subcontinent culture, when you say that I have eaten someone's salt, it's like saying that I have to be loyal now because I have eaten your salt. I have to be loyal to you. This is a figure of speech in the Indian subcontinent, and all the Qadianis and the Ahmadis know what that means. Okay, or nek nami hasil karda. Okay, and we have been in good books of the British colonial government. Okay, and we have been looked upon by mercy. Okay, by the government. This is all he's saying. So, Asif Basit, this is all we are saying. We're not saying anything else. Responding to you directly. We're watching your podcast. Imtiaz bhai, if we continue like this, it's going to be forever. So let's move quickly. Otherwise, because there are so many, brothers and sisters, look. There are so many quotes. There are so many disturbing things in Mirza's books when it comes to serve him dying to serve the British colonial rule that will be here all night. Okay, so we'll address these things very quickly, inshallah. We want to go back to the podcast and address some of his points. Yes.
We'll gain so much success, right? So they need to first figure out themselves what exactly do they want. but they want to paint him like that, or they want to paint him as a British agent, or whatever.
Tell me first about what they were actually saying to the British, because Hazrat Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Islam, he claimed to be the Mahdi.
Right.
And I think it's so important for our viewers and our listeners to know what the ulama were doing.
Right.
How were they contacting the British Empire?
Well, it's interesting you asked that, because what they were doing was they were telling the British government, we are loyal to you. This man, i.e. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, is not.
The ulama were saying
this. Ulama were saying this. The Muslim ulama were saying this.
Okay, Imtiaz bhai. So he's saying, tell us what you're calling him. We're calling him everything the quotes are calling him. We just put out the quotes. In his own writing, he's saying, I'm loyal. I would give my life for the British colonial rule in India. We are the most loyal sect or most loyal group of people in the Indian subcontinent to the British colonial rule in India. My ancestors have served you. I have worked for 18 long years publishing books to make people loyal to the British colonial rule to India. It is absolutely forbidden to resist the oppressive, the racist, the genocidal British colonial rule over India. Jihad will be finished against them. You cannot resist, you cannot fight them using the concept of jihad to resist oppression and disbelief that was imposed by the British colonial rule in India. All of these things, they point to one thing: agent. Of course, he was an agent in that respect. He was an agent, but he was a self-proclaimed agent. This is the point. He was dying to be an agent. He was dying to be an agent. He was trying to make his own murids, his followers, people who became his followers. He wanted them to be agents of the British colonial rule in India, because he's writing that. That my followers are the most loyal to the British colonial rule in India, and they would die for this rule, and they are very loyal. We have read the quotes in black and white. There's no denying. So stop lying, Asif Basid. This is what he wrote. This is what he was. Continue, inshallah.
If you I just beg your pardon. Just give me 1 second. Yeah. I just want to show people something so they can see exactly what we are trying to highlight here. So, look at this one. It says that हम तमाम मालो जान से अपनी ताकत और हैसियत के मुवाफिक गवर्नमेंट बरतानिया की इमदाद के लिए हाजिर हैं. I repeat again. It says that, by the way, this one is मजमूआ इश्तिहारात, volume number 1, page 595 and 596. He is telling all the things they have done for the British Raj. And look, he says here, he says that वो गवर्नमेंट बरतानिया के, he says that my elders, वो गवर्नमेंट बरतानिया के खैर खां हैं, अपने अफ़आल से साफ तौर पर बार बार हुक्काम पे जाहिर कर दिया कि हम तमाम मालो जान से और अपनी ताकत और हैसियत के मुवाफिक गवर्नमेंट बरतानिया की इमदाद के लिए हाजिर हैं. और ना सिर्फ ये, बल्कि 50 घोड़े अपनी गिरा से खरीद के और 50 सवार भी बहम पहुंचा के 1857 के शोर शर के वक्त में गवर्नमेंट की नजर किए. फिर दूसरी मर्तबा 14 घोड़े नजर किए, और इस तरह वो और वक्तों में भी गवर्नमेंट की खिदमत में मशगूल रहे और वक्तन फवक्तन खुशनुदी की चिट्ठियां पाते रहे और इनामात भी मिलते रहे. और 40 बरस अपनी उम्र अजीज के इन्हीं खिदमात में उन्होंने बसर किए. और फिर बाद उनके इंतकाल के मेरा बड़ा भाई मिर्जा गुलाम कादिर खिदमात गवर्नमेंट में मशगूल रहा. जी भाई.
So in this quote, Mirza Ghulam Qadyani is saying that my ancestors have been loyal to the British government to the extent that they provided 50 cavaliers in the during the War of Independence of 1857, when the Indians, Muslims and Hindus, both united to drive out the British from India, because the British were extremely racist and unjust and genocidal, and they were very, very oppressive. And now they were trying to impose Christianity on Muslims and Hindus by using the cartridges that were made of pig fat and cow fat. Pig abhorrent to Muslims, cow sacred to Hindus. So they did this to take away their religion or to reduce their respect for their own religions. And because of this, the Indians, the Hindus and the Muslims, both united and fought the British to drive them out. And what does Mirza's father do? Mirza Ghulam Ahmad Qadyani's father sends them 50 horsemen, 50 cavaliers to keep them in India, to keep them in that powerful position, to continue oppressing the Indians, the Hindus and the Muslims, to continue forcing Christianity upon them, and to continue send missionaries to India to do so, right? And then he says, then we also sent 14 horsemen at a separate occasion, okay? And they, because of these services, they received acknowledgements from the government and gifts of appreciation from the colonial government of India, okay? And my brother, after my father died, having served the British for 40 years, after he died, my brother continued to serve the British colonial government, right? This is the reality. What agent? What are you talking about, Asif Basit? Do you not have any shame? He was more than an agent. This guy was like a loyal, treacherous servant of the British colonial rule against all the Indians, his own Muslim brethren and the Hindus who were suffering under this oppressive colonial rule. I am so surprised at the intellect of these people, and they're accusing us of not reading Mirza's books. Imtiaz bhai, I'm completely blown away.